1, 2, 3, check. Check. Can you check this?
Check this, bitch.
All right, we're getting ready. Do our stretching. Get another show going here. Get another show. Make it happen. Welcome to the Angry Stepdad Show. It's kind of late. I'm scruffy. I'm wearing a hoodie. Haven't even shaved. My green screen looks like shit. Hey, what do you do, right? You got to put on the show somehow or another. Head on over to the website, angrystepdad.ca, where you've got all your content. You've got audio. You can download it to your vehicle or your device and listen to it anywhere, or you can watch the video online as well on YouTube, and we've got tons of videos up there. Right now, we've got about 25 episodes, give or take. I kind of lost count. I'm just working here, folks. I couldn't avoid it. It's been all over the frickin' news like you wouldn't believe. It's the homeless problem in the Lower Mainland, and I'm sure in your own city, your own town, you probably have something plaguing your town to some degree or another. Vancouver is particularly troublesome, especially in the winter, because we have warm winters, warm-ish winters down here, and people come down, of course, for that. And it creates crime problems and everything else. We're going to cover that. And usually my show has other segments, a whole lot of other segments. My show can run an hour or so sometimes, and with a guest even longer. Tonight we're going to dump all that. No photo of the day, no story time, no asshole of the day, no crazy drivers, no YouTube suggestion. We're going to throw it all out the window. We're going to go straight to an interview we had with Betty, and we're going to head on to the streets of Maple Ridge, and we talked to a resident that lives in the local area, and we also picked up the phone and we talked to some business owners in the local area around the homeless camp in Maple Ridge. And we've got a whole bunch of photography in the loop here that you guys will be able to check out if you're watching on YouTube. You know, over the years, I've seen a lot of different street life and homeless, and either through the lens or with my own eyes, and it seems to be a problem that doesn't go away. Maybe it can get better. I'm hoping it can get better. And, we got to work together on it. This knee-jerk social media Band-Aid parade is really getting tiresome. Nothing's getting done. The virtue signaling has to end, folks. Let's do something about it. And maybe the political willpower or the social clout out there can actually set some things straight and get this problem sorted out. We're going to talk about the issues around this. It's not a black and white topic by any means. There are so many layers, and it really comes down to the tough work is for the powers that be, the ministries, the people themselves, the social networks to come together and on an individual basis figure out what these people's needs are, because you cannot use a cookie cutter solution for these people. It is not going to work. It hasn't worked. It will not work. I encourage everybody to listen in and just see a different point of view than you get on the mainstream media. We get fed a lot of things that have a trend, or they have trigger words, or they have emotional attachment that cause people to become distressed at home. That's not what I'm about here at Angry Stepdad Show. We want to uncover the stories, the people behind the stories. We want to see exactly what's going on the street side and not necessarily off the airwaves. So stick with us and hopefully you enjoy it. And we'll see you at the end of the show. Should homeless people be allowed to live on the street in tent-like encampments?
No.
Why not?
Not on the street in tent-like, from areas where they're causing problems or whatever, then I don't have an issue with it. But if they're in an area where there's like kids and people's houses and stuff, it's not really conducive to people getting along.
Is this a case of NIMBYism?
No. They're dirty, they steal, they do drugs.
Okay, so do you think that part of the problem with these homeless camps is they harbor thieves, drug addicts, and miscreants, and people that just don't fit in with society?
Those are not all the same thing.
Well, they're all possible factors in the cause of these homeless camps.
Yeah, but you can not fit in with society, kind of like us, and take care of your dwelling, quote unquote, but not be a drug addict or thief.
Okay, so saying not fitting in society would probably be a harsh generalization.
Yes.
What if these people are feeling like they don't have to conform to everybody else's standards and live in a house?
Well, we don't conform to everybody's standards and live in a house.
It's a tough interview, folks. What's the number one reason you figure they're living on the street?
Because they're drug addicts or mentally ill.
Do you think those two things have a really gray line between them?
They can be connected, but not necessarily.
Do you think that the government's move to brutally destroy these camps and leave people more homeless is really bad?
Yes.
What kinds of alternative types of solutions could you imagine instead for these homeless camps?
They could be put in an area that is a better choice than a playground, and they could like rent some porta potties for people to use instead of them shitting on the street.
Where do you think all this money comes from?
Well, they probably wouldn't have to pay so many officers to tear down the camps, so they could afford a porta potty rental.
Fair point.
And if we took care of our mentally ill children, they would have a better chance of growing up to not be that way as adults.
That's a fair point.
As mother of a mentally ill child, you know?
So for a group of 100 homeless people living in this camp, there will be a certain number of them that are mentally ill. There will be a certain number that are drug addicts. There will be a certain number that just don't care to live in a house. Some don't work. You know, everybody has problems that lead to their conclusion of living on the street in a homeless tent shelter.
Yes. For example, Aldergrove has Bill. Bill is not necessarily mentally ill. Bill just chooses to not live in a house and chooses to live on the street. But he keeps his area clean. He treats people with respect. He doesn't steal, and he doesn't do drugs. Nobody bothers him. Nobody.
That is a fact. There's a person in Aldergrove who is homeless and has been on the street for a long time and has lived on a certain street corner. Everybody kind of knows him. And he's not a threat to anybody or himself, so he just chooses to take the handouts as they come and live somewhat comfortably. People, let's say, we don't know any of the percentages, but we can probably just figure out some basic categories. So the first category I can think of would be drug abuse. That in itself, I think, is possibly caused by addiction issues that are ingrained as like a person who has addiction issues, or it could be compounded by a person who has mental illness who chose the route of drugs and is now addicted to drugs as well as being mentally ill.
Correct.
There are some of those people who can't afford to live in a home of some sort.
Well, if they weren't doing drugs, do you think maybe they could live in a home?
Well, there's a lot of people that don't have jobs that would like to have jobs or live in a home but are still living in a homeless camp.
Yes.
The real question is, what is the leading cause of people to be living in a tent city? And don't tell me it's because they want it.
No, it's not. Who would want to honestly live in a tent city? There might be people that do, but they are the small percentage of those living in the tent city. Majority of people living in the tent city is because they cannot afford a home, whether it's because they don't have a job, which there's jobs out there, but usually because they have a drug addiction.
So after we've put together some rough categories, and there may be some missing, I don't know, but generally speaking, what of the 3 or 4 categories of people living in a tent city would we figure is the number one weighted cause of why they're in a tent city and cannot get out.
Drug addiction.
I would agree. You think mental illness falls a close second?
Yes.
Do you think that, would you say that equality of opportunity or equality of outcome is something that will solve this problem? So, like, right now, their opportunity level as, say, you or I is very, very different. Their opportunity to go for a drive, their opportunity to get a job, their opportunity to go grab a coffee is completely different than ours. If they were given the same opportunity as us to, say, go for a drive and go to Starbucks, would they continue living in a tent city?
A lot of them, yes, because they're so stoned out of their minds, out of reality. They're either stoned out of reality or they're mentally ill out of reality to not realize that that's not a great way to live. They don't.
So maybe a piece of type of living that they've gotten used to and or no, they can't get out of with the current situation they're in.
With the current situation that they generally put themselves in. And I say that because even an addict can choose eventually at some point in their life to have a better life.
So some people out there feel that if you go with the equality of outcome scenario and we start right now at the present time. So right now, simply put, we have a vehicle, we work, we drive around, we go for dinner, we have coffee. Now these people that believe in equality of outcome figure that those people in the homeless tent shelter, those people in the homeless camp should have the same outcome that we do today. So we should give them a car, we should give them a wallet with money in it and go to Starbucks and let them drive around and do what everybody else is doing because they deserve it.
No.
But it's because they've been repressed and the people haven't given them the same, stuff that they have. How come they don't have the same stuff?
They haven't worked for it like the rest of us and made the right choices. It's not, you shouldn't have to give them anything. You want to feed them? That's fine. Feed them. Don't give them money because it's about choices, whether they're addiction-driven choices or logical choices. If I get $20, I choose to spend it on food. The people in the homeless camps, they'll choose, food is one, or they'll spend it on drugs or alcohol. That's a choice.
So what do you make of, to what extent, with the help that's being called for on this camp, for these people to get some kind of help, what would be the most help that would be fair to give these people?
Counseling, drug addiction counseling, and mental health counseling.
Or do you mean that in a program sense, like a full, like a month program, like a full get help, or are we talking like once a week?
Whatever they'll agree to start with.
Well, that's the other question I have for people out there is, should these people be deemed, mentally fit enough to take care of their own affairs? I'm not saying put them in a mental hospital necessarily, but take away the opportunity for them to feel that they can just live on the street. This is going to sound harsh, but why not round them up, put them on a government piece of property, and get them clean and get them some job skills, like while they're at this supposed camp?
It's not a bad idea.
Don't we need more laborers, rebarmen, lumber carriers, framers, plumbers, welders? Don't we need people more of that?
Yep, and leaving them in the city is just compounding the problem. Like, realistically, leaving them in the public, putting them, I guess, away somewhere in a camp. It just sounds so bad. Not a concentration camp, people. It would be good because it would take them away from that easy access to all the things, all the wrong choices they're making, inappropriate choices they're making.
Well, I have an ironic story from Maple Ridge. In fact, there's a place there called Maple Ridge Treatment Center, and it is in the city of Maple Ridge. It is within proximity of the street dealers, and there were people in the program that during the day when they had their walking pass to walk uptown would go and see their drug dealers. Now, that's the kind of point I'm talking about. What you just made was they take them far away from any possibility of relapsing for, say, the first few months.
Yeah. Well, it's like, this guy I know quit drinking, and he didn't go to a pub for months. For probably longer than months. Didn't expose himself to the possibility of getting alcohol, and that helped him kick his alcohol problem.
So, if you have a problem gambling, it's probably a good idea to stay out of a fucking casino?
Yeah.
All right, so we kind of established a baseline here. It's really difficult to leave these people out and about in public to their own devices because for either addiction reasons or mental health reasons, they're unable to control the ability to say no. So to me, that means that they're not capable of taking care of their own needs. And to boot, they are going around stealing, breaking in, some cases violent crime against other people in society. And we say the best we can do is put them into another camp.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Doesn't make any sense to me, and maybe we'll go and find out some more information. So you get a building like a Rona. It's empty, kind of like a warehousey type thing. You have a few offices in there, and very small ones. You have a one-person office, has an RCMP liaison officer, and the RCMP officers float through there like they shift through. They don't spend all week there. There's always a different guy there, let's say. There's an administration office for a couple people. There's a nurse's office for 2 or 3 nurses. There's mental health, little tiny little office for mental health counselors, maybe a few of those, maybe a conference room, meeting room maybe type thing for people to have counseling or group counseling, and then there's a little entertainment area. You can have your couch set up with your televisions and a little entertainment, some pool billiards. Not make it cushy, but make it comfortable for people recovering from problems. So you have basically a camp type setting, and I'm talking about the Northern Alberta job camps. And there's also, make gyms, may have a gym there, and also have a big work area, a work training area for welding, for the trades, for pipes, for plumbing, for carpentry, for any manner of trades that people can, and not necessarily a trade school, but have a trades area that trainers can come in from the universities or from industry and give lectures and teach people hands-on how to have some job skills while they're getting their life straightened out. So in each facility, you can house X number of people. And in the housing, you can possibly segregate different issues, as per severity. If people are coming off of drugs, you don't want them there causing problems. So maybe they can be in a recovery house for a month or two first. But then they can, instead of a halfway house, they can go to this living facility. In fact, they can either have a kitchen where you make your own food, which I think would be better than just a cafeteria type thing, because they're not learning their own life skills. So they could have one of the counselors on hand or program attendants to make sure that they're cooking properly and all that.
Cleaning up after themselves.
Have them like household skills, teach them how to clean up after themselves and have pride in their work and pride in their living space. So yeah, forget the cafeteria idea. Maybe somebody there qualified to assist them in learning how to cook or something. So their life would be spent learning these skills. They wouldn't have time to go out and seek out and do drugs. Okay, so there we go. We got a layout of a plan. Now, the NIMBY part of it will be squashed, period. The program will be set in place and there will be enough things to keep these people busy doing to get themselves in a positive direction that they won't have time to do things like that, let alone vandalize the neighborhood and steal. And every week the residents get a piss test. Everything go along tickety-boo until, bam, somebody has a relapse. Then what do you do?
Get them back off to the rehab facility.
Send them back off the rehab facility. If it's alcohol rehabs, then I guess, I don't know if they need 30 days there. They might. Then if there's heroin use or any of that, yeah, that could be back to rehab. But then maybe it could be dealt with in the nursing situation and the counseling situation in the facility that's already created.
Ooh, I know. For the alcohol ones, alcoholics, if they're going to stay there, be there, whatever, they have to be taking that drug that makes you throw up if you drink alcohol.
They're going to take the drug where they throw up if they drink alcohol? I can't remember the name of that.
I can't remember the name of it either. But there's a drug that helps alcoholics that makes them really not want to drink.
I agree. Well, you want to try to make it as organic as possible. I guess for the really bad alcoholics, you'd have to maybe do something like that. But so I guess a relapse would be back in the rehab facility.
Yeah, if these people really want help, then absolutely.
Okay, so let's say they say, I'm of sound mind and I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go back to living on the street and stealing and putting needles in my veins.
Can't stop them.
You can't stop them. So anybody that has an addiction like that needs to make a choice to stop that addiction.
Yep.
Well, it always starts with a person who's addicted, correct?
Yes.
So wouldn't it be like a revolving door if, let's say, we sent them to a rehab facility for relapsing, and then they finally said they didn't want to do it anymore, and they went and lived on the street, and now they're going to be dealing with the consequences directly of the police picking them up because you're not allowed to live on the street without being a productive use of society?
Well, I guess if they're going to be breaking laws, then they can go to jail and get 3 square meals a day and a roof over their head.
So they can get all of that for free by being in jail.
Yeah.
If they don't want to be productive members of society.
Yeah, I don't know. If they're breaking laws and not being productive members of society. All I'm saying is you cannot help people who don't want to help themselves. So you get these people that don't want help. There's nothing you can do for them. There is absolutely nothing you can do for them. So they're going to live on the street because that's what they want to do. They don't want a different life.
Okay, fair enough. So it kind of goes back to if they're on the street doing lawful things to live, then they won't encounter police and cause themselves to go to jail.
Exactly.
Which is completely plausible and okay.
Been homeless for fucking millennia. Not all homeless people are bad.
That's true. And so for the people that are breaking the law and don't want to follow the rule, they're going to end up in a place where they're going to have to follow the rules all the time and to get their 3 squares a day or whatever.
Exactly.
So a secondary cause of that is, or a secondary problem with that I see right away though, is that what if they end up in jail for 10 days and then they go out and then they end up in jail in 10 more days or 30 days or 6 months or whatever? It's still going to be a revolving scenario that can't be broken, but of the whole problem we had, maybe that'll only be a manageable amount.
Right.
Which is kind of where it should be, is a manageable amount of people that if they're in the system, they're just in the system.
Yeah.
That's inevitable.
Yeah.
I agree with that. So there's always going to be that guy or that girl or whoever. It's always going to, it's like in any crowd. It's demographic. It's human nature. So we've dealt with most of the problem now with a facility and the resources that it takes to help people get through those things in their life. But in no way, shape, or form would we want to see people getting free handouts for no apparent reason.
Well, yeah, I don't think that if they don't want help, there's no reason that they should be getting free handouts.
So willingness to be better people personally or or also as well as be productive, possibly productive members of society.
Well, yeah, because in order to be a better person personally, you have to be a somewhat productive member of society.
I agree.
Like me, I don't work outside of the home, but I'm still a productive member of society. I do good to people. I help people. I educate people.
You keep your husband out of jail.
I keep my husband out of jail.
So there's a benefit to society right there, see? So some detractors of some idea similar to that would, let me think of some keywords. You're warehousing people. You're treating them like cattle. You're treating them like a number. Not in my backyard. But see, every question that people have, and it's good, question everything around you. However, when you're given a logical, sane, productive, not the best and perfect answer, but a productive answer to your question, you don't need to harp on it anymore. Yes, there will be a facility nearby in your neighborhood. No, none of the nightmare scenarios you're talking about have an infantile chance in hell of becoming true. So quit with it already. No, they're not going to come and take over your neighborhood and rape your children and steal your cars and break into your houses, because the system is set up such that those checks and balances will end that person up in jail more often than the ability to break into your house.
Incorrect.
Incorrect? I'd like an explanation, please.
Sadly, the policing service can't catch all these guys, gals, whatever. But eventually they will get theirs. But your house will be broken into. Your car will be broken into. Look at Aldergrove. Just look at Aldergrove.
Now, on a current time basis, yes, I agree with you. However, if the situation I was kind of outlining fell into place, and 3-4 years from now, it wouldn't be a problem because the system itself would prove that having that in your neighborhood. But yes, back to today's world, Aldergrove
is a disaster. There's a lot of break-ins. There's a contingent of homeless people. Actually, some of them aren't even homeless. That's kind of the sad part. But there's a contingent of criminal activity that focuses in a couple certain areas of town. And yeah, the crime rate is very, very high for personal property crime in Aldergrove.
And nobody likes it more when you work really hard for your stuff and your living and your home and all of your property and your possessions, and somebody with no respect for that, for themselves or anybody else around them, comes along and takes it like it was theirs. There's nothing worse than that.
Kids' bikes, shit like that go missing here all the time. Why would you steal a child's bike? Like, are you kidding me? That's just wrong.
Well, it's interesting, though. When people are on drugs, they don't have a really clear view of what's right and wrong.
They wouldn't sneak around and be sneaky and stuff if they didn't know that what they're doing is wrong.
That's a good point, because if they figure it was A-okay, they would just go ahead and steal a car and drive it around like it was theirs.
Exactly. They wouldn't hide. They wouldn't sneak around at night. They wouldn't, they know what they're doing is wrong. So, yeah, bullshit.
I'm just playing devil's advocate. However, the right and wrong thing in terms of what I was talking about and what I meant is when people are addicted to something, drugs, alcohol, whatever, they aren't thinking with the same set of rules that you and I think with. It doesn't make it right. It's not a validation by any means. However, it's an understanding of how it works. They're sensitized to other people's feelings, obviously, so they trot on them a lot easier, etc. But there needs to be a system put in place that works for the most part and brings numbers back to a relatively normal level for a percentage of people in our society, because you cannot fix everybody. You cannot save the world. No matter what you do, there's always going to be an outlier of some sort. So if we could get it back to a nominal number that is acceptable, that would be great. Which leads to the other question is, a lot of our awareness of homeless and poverty-related issues, a lot to do with media and widespread internet media that allows us to see more stories like that is another question. Is homelessness really worse now, or is the ability to see homelessness far better?
Yes.
And that's the answer I get.
Well, it is true, both, depending on where you are. Like, homelessness in the greater Vancouver area is pretty much out of control. No word of a lie. Homelessness in Calgary, under control for the most part. You have your homeless people, but you don't have the density of homeless people that you have in Vancouver. So, but yes, media also sensationalizes it and makes it more visible.
So there's a little bit of both.
Yes, that's my answer.
And there is another exacerbating factor here, in which we haven't talked about a lot, is ability to rent and rental market.
Vancouver's really expensive. So Calgary's expensive too. But there are more low-cost options in Calgary than there are in Vancouver by a long shot.
I would agree. 1, 2, 3, check. So there's going to be some people. The neighborhood's pretty uptight about this whole thing. It looks to me like I might get an interview of one of the or two of the residents, and we'll see exactly what they think of this whole mess. And this is exactly what they're doing here. Apparently there's still residents in there right now, and there's still people that are hanging on. So we're just taking a look here. Apparently there still are people in the camp. And what are they going to do with all these people? Really, what are they going to do with them? It's really a question, I have to say.
Jimmy.
Talking to Jimmy here. We're at the Maple Ridge homeless camp, and the residents are understandably pretty upset about having all these people stealing and living on the sly. And how do you feel about this whole thing?
I feel that I would love them just to get rid of it all. That we're tired of people being in our yards, stealing our stuff, even chaining stuff down, things disappear, and it's unreal. The cost of the city is absolutely unreal. Wooden structures, big buildings in there that are building. Like, if I built something like that in my backyard and I didn't have a permit, the city would be there in seconds, making me dismantle it and having it all inspected. These people just build structures. There's no recourse. It's just, I just can't believe it. It's unreal. It's like, get rid of it. You know, the city's in there trying to, clean up the mess. The garbage in there, I'm estimating there's probably going to be 20, 30 bins full of garbage at roughly $500 a bin just to get rid of the garbage, never mind the rest of the stuff.
So do you find that the mainstream media, and I've noticed this, they tend to play it up like it's some kind of social, like, powwow and some kind of social, like, hug we got to give these people?
Yeah. They've been offered housing, they've been offered all sorts of different things, and they refuse to take it because there's rules. They want to be able to live in there, sell their drugs, do their drugs, no repercussions. If you don't want help, why should we be going out of our way spending all this money to help them? Like, come on, guys. There's one guy, he was on the news yesterday, said he lived in one camp for 2 years, the other one for a year, this camp for 2 years. He's 29 years old. Well, haven't you had a job in those 5 years? Everybody gets down and out. I've been there too. But you know what? There's lots of jobs. I said, you drive through Maple Ridge, half the businesses have signs up. Help wanted, help wanted. Well, help wanted, help yourself and get a job and, live in the camp or live somewhere until you got enough money to get a damage deposit and get your first month's rent. But come on.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues at play. I mean, there's mental illness. There's not an excuse for it. There's mental illness, there's addiction, there's a whole lot of issues, but there are the people that really just want to live the shit life where they're doing drugs and dealing drugs.
Yeah, exactly, and, how do you expect everybody else to pay for them if they don't want to help themselves?
You can't just give away money. I mean, if your tires in your truck probably cost a lot of money, you have to work for those.
Yeah, that's right. $1,000 for tires. You go through there. The gentleman just rode away. He's driving an $800 mountain bike. That's the Dwayne guy, the head guy that with the main structure. It's like, buddy, you sell your bike, there's a damage deposit for an apartment.
He's a spokesperson, you're saying. So, and that's what I find is, I mean, they say in the States too, a lot of people on welfare, but they got an $800 phone or they got an $800 mountain bike.
Cell phones. My cell phone's $100 a month. Yeah. You know, and sometimes I can barely pay it. You know, and I work, 80 or 40 hours a week. Like, come on.
Yeah, and the Maple Ridge Treatment Center is not too far away. People have addiction problems, and it's good that they're getting help there. Yeah. There's some people that might say, oh, because MRTC is right there, it's causing this problem. But I don't think that's the case.
That's nothing to do with it. No. You see those guys from the treatment center, they walk up, you see them at Tim Hortons, you see them on the round, they're happy. They're like, want to be there. Maybe there should be new laws if they don't want to get help. Maybe force them into counseling or something where they don't get any help or any food brought to them unless they, oh, you want some food? Well, here's a counselor. Why don't you talk to her for a half an hour or him for a half an hour?
And eat a sandwich.
And eat a sandwich. Sit down and have a meal and have a little bit of a counseling session. Maybe, that...
Bribe them with help.
Well, exactly. That would be an option of, something.
So there's a lot of people that call for, like, some simple silver bullet solution, but I don't think there is.
No, I don't. It's a long-term solution, what do you even say? It's just, you got to be able to want to help yourself, and if you don't want to help yourself, you get them to get counseling. That would be a start.
A start, anything.
A start, anything, But if they don't even want to do that, then how do you help them?
Yeah. So in the corner house, they were...
It's been broken into like 10 times in a week. One night they went in, they took all the doors, the interior doors. They took out all the piping out of the house, the copper piping. And now it's been all boarded up. And they still keep, once in a while you'll go by and a board will be ripped off. Yeah.
So the condo they're developing right across the street, you were telling me that there's receivership against him because he can't sell the units because of the homeless camp there, and that the trades can't get paid and can't finish their jobs because of all the controversy?
Yeah, apparently the plumbers and electricians have liens, so they can't finish doing the work inside. They don't want to spend any more money until they get a deposit, at least for materials. But the developer, I guess, ran out of money. From what the workers tell me, there's a couple that are doing some outside work, but there's no inside work to being done because they just don't have the funds, and they're not going to list them. They tried to sell them, and nobody would buy them, so they took it off the market, and until the camp's gone, then they're going to try to sell them again.
That's big repercussions for people, A, trying to get a place to live, B, make a living, and also the people that are trying to help the economy. I mean, this is a hot market in here, right?
Yeah. Well, usually condos go up, they're pre-sold, like they're gone. And, these ones, they look like they're a fair size, and I'm probably guessing, 2 bedrooms, 1,000, 1,200 square feet, some of the units. Those are $500,000, $500,000 units each.
Yeah.
I think they said there's 52 in there.
And to see that just go in the shitter because people want a free place to live. And that's the other thing. The homeless camp was supposedly asking the developer the government.
The city to buy that for them so they can have tenant-run housing. So basically tenant-run housing is they'll have a little booth set up at the door and sell their drugs just like they're doing out of the camp, and that's why they want it tenant-run, because anywhere you go there's going to be a building manager or some kind. With rules. Like anywhere you rent, there's rules, and they don't want rules. So come on, get with reality.
You're fucked if you do it here.
The society has laws, and basically the laws are rules. Live by it.
Well, thank you very much for talking to me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And what's been going on for you as a business? Like, has it been really bad with theft or anything like that, or is it more just a social issue you guys feel for it, or?
But the honest truth is, yeah, it's been really bad, and I think the majority of the population doesn't know how bad it's been. Yeah, I don't. I quite honestly, I'm tired of talking about it. Yeah, but it's been terrible.
I can imagine. And Maple Ridge, I lived out there for a bit. It has probably gotten worse in the last 10 years, I'd say.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's just been all negative All I can say is that it's been extremely negative, just extreme disrespect from the supporters of the camp. Just nothing but disrespect to myself, to all the neighborhood, to just trash the place. They almost blew us up. And then the disrespect to the first responders that come and save their lives, and then they turn around and stab in the back, tell them that they're, the police are the ones that started the fire. Like, jokers. So that's all I got to say.
Wow.
It's been going on. It's a broken record. Yeah, I don't even want to put any. I don't want to even put any energy into it. I will tell you that the people of Maple Ridge will never get on board with the handouts, the free houses and all that. It's just because we're all we're all homeowners that are basically just trying to, pay our bills and raise our kids. They'll never be on board with what people want for these people. They want free. They want free houses, and I want that too.
Hey, everybody, thanks for watching. Really appreciate all the subs on YouTube and any emails I get and any phone calls I get. Don't forget, we have a 1-855-866-0423 number. Is good across North America and Canada. Get on it. Give me a call. I don't care. Just leave a message and we'll address it on the air. Take care. Have a great night.